Hello and welcome to IBTimes TV. I'm Leanna Brinder, business editor for the International Business Times. Joining me now is Kat Heathcote. She's a director at Witherby Publishing Group. So hi, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
So first of all, give us a little rundown about yourself and your business.
Okay, our business is based in Scotland, in Livingston. It was in 2008 that we bought a company called Witherby Publishing Group. At the time we were called Seamanship International. And we moved the business up from the City of London to Livingston, which is just on the outskirts of Edinburgh. And we are now a company that is, rather bizarrely, the oldest independent English-speaking publisher in the world. Started 1740, so that's quite fun.
Well, fantastic. So, I mean, we see your badge, but why are you going to be voting yes today?
I think that for the small medium enterprise, which is really the backbone of the Scottish economy, voting yes will bring a government that will really be focused on the needs of that part of the business community. When we look at the UK government, it is largely driven by the needs of the larger sector, the banking, insurance, BP, companies that are really part of the establishment and the infrastructure. Really in Scotland, I don't think that's so relevant. There are very few large companies with corporate headquarters actually in Scotland, and it's not the biggest part of our economy.
Okay. On the opposite side, the Better Together campaign have been criticised for being relentlessly negative, whereas the Yes Scotland campaign has been said that it's been relentlessly optimistic. Have you got any concerns at all over whether if Scotland becomes independent, that there are a few issues that you'd like to see more clarity on?
No, I don't have any real concerns. I mean, what we're seeing at the moment is politics, and that's fine, but politics is very, very different from the real world. From our own point of view, do I think that the UK government is going to deny a currency union? It would be a crazy act. We're the biggest trading partner. There's a lot that goes back and forth. It would hurt the UK as much, probably if not more, than Scotland. Scotland sits with 60% of the energy assets of Europe. It sits with 20% of the fish stocks and 1% of the population. We're going to be welcome as a trading partner. We always have. I think it's a very vibrant economy. It has a lot of people in the economy that are working part-time. There's a lot of women working, and I think some of the things that the Scottish government wants to do in terms of childcare, in terms of making sure that education remains free, is really, really important to the sort of economy that we are. I think if I was in the centre of London looking at the same vote, I could understand their position, but in reality, if I was sitting in the centre of London, I would see that almost as a sort of Singapore, and it's almost logical to go float that off instead and leave the rest of the UK, because it really is horses for courses.
I mean, you're also in a very unique position. You're a business person in Scotland, but also you are an oil expert. You were in the industry for 2 decades, is that
Yes,
correct?
I was, yes.
Can you give us a clearer picture in terms of how much reserve and production will contribute to the economy for Scotland?
There's a number of factors that you have to recall. Oil is actually only 15% of the Scottish economy in reality. And if you take it away, our GDP is just a tiny bit smaller than the rest of the UK, and we would still be in one of the most wealthy countries in the world. So really, in some ways, the oil debate, yes, it's important, but it's not the be-all that people like to make it out. A lot of what you're seeing with the oil companies, as in the same way as you see with the financial companies, this is pre-negotiation. What the oil companies are saying, when I listen to the statements that are being made by people like Bob Dudley, is that we are looking for a good tax regime, we're looking for good fiscal structures to encourage production and to encourage exploration. That's entirely sensible. If I was him, I would be saying exactly the same at this point. Without doubt, at the point of a yes vote, or even at a no vote, life does go on. People will make sure that business can continue. The oil companies will be where the oil is. Scotland is a very well-developed economy, and they're not going to have any real fear about dealing with us. I mean, I've heard people say to me things like, well, all the oil companies will leave, won't they? Like where, they're used to dealing in some pretty unpleasant parts of the world. I think Scotland's actually not a bad gig. So it's kind of hard to take all that seriously. In terms of how much is there, I think it just comes down to, is there loads of oil or is there loads and loads of oil? There's definitely at least 16 to 20 billion barrels. Everybody says that. That's an awful lot, and it makes a big difference to the economy. in terms of why do people come up with such dramatically different views, you have to remember that in January 2014, just as an example, BP made a statement about gas self-sufficiency in the US. And about 3 days later, ExxonMobil made a statement about gas self-sufficiency in the US. And in January 2014, one of the companies said, we will be self-sufficient by 2035, and the other said, by 2020. Now that's a huge disparity in something where it's just 6 years away, sorry. Now, the reason they do that is that they have different asset structures and different messages they need to give to their shareholders. One of the companies was very oil rich at the time and didn't have so many gas fields and really wanted to have the economy based around oil as a really important asset for the US government. The other one had the opposite. So of course they're going to make two quite contradictory statements. So a lot of what you hear from oil companies is nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with what the real picture is. And when I started in the early 80s, we were going to have run out by, I think at that point they were saying 2005. It didn't happen. I don't think I've ever worked in the oil industry at a time when we're not going to run out 20 years from now. And I've been past a few of those, and it still seems to be 20 years, and even 40. So we're in quite a positive phase at the moment. So I view that all a bit cynically.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
That's okay, my pleasure.
That was Kat Heathcote, Director of Witherby Publishing Group.